Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and today is a very exciting story that we have for you. It's from the world of virtual reality, and as you can see around me, I am at Smaaash. They are India's first virtual reality experience zone, and as you can see behind me, there aren't many people. That's because it's a weekday. On a weekend, this place is buzzing with people who want to experience virtual reality. Now, like you saw, I have had some hands-on time with these virtual reality experiences, but that's not our story for today. Today, what we are going to talk about is how these virtual reality experiences are made, what's the hardware, what's the equipment, what's the time that goes behind making a VR experience, and what are the other implications apart from gaming. What about education? What about other fields of interest? Is it viable to have VR in those spaces? We're going to talk about all that and a whole lot more with the people behind Smaaash. So Mr. Kaiser, thank you so much for joining us today. And our topic today is about how VR games are made. And since Smaaash is into VR experiences, it's going to be more about how VR experiences are made. So for all those that are watching this, could you briefly explain the difference between a VR game and a VR experience like we were talking about earlier?
Okay. So VR has basically hit the markets worldwide in the last couple of years commercially. VR experiences are things available today which can be used with Google Cardbox and many other prototype devices available from ready-made purchasing online stores, and they can be visualized, used at home in your environment. They can cost from as much as $20 up to $500 and $1,000. What Smaaash specializes in is creating an augmented reality where we make you actually believe you are inside the game. So for example, you can watch a video of a Jurassic Park ride on any VR device, be it the Samsung Note phone with a Samsung Gear VR head display. What Smaaash would do is actually put you inside a chair that moves in addition to your, the movement of the car. When the dinosaur bites you, you'll actually feel the dinosaur biting you. You'll feel his breath. You'll feel the sensation around him. So we take the entire experience from just visuals to an actual whole body immersive experience. That is what really makes a difference between a ride and something that you would use just as a VR visual display.
There's very little spoken about the experience that goes into making these experiences. So you're someone that actually makes these experiences.
Yes.
So can you tell us where it starts and how it lands up in the hands of the consumer at one of these experience centers?
Okay, so the biggest part of making a VR game is the conceptualization of the idea. According to me, while you develop a VR game, you could take anything. You could bake your own cake and make it a VR experience. You could fly a plane, make it a VR experience. Conceptualizing the idea of what do you want to portray. It should ideally be something that you can't do in your daily routine life. That is the biggest part of while choosing the idea. When we select an idea, we take a lot of brainstorming sessions to actually finalize on that. Once we finalize on the agenda, what is the application required, how should it be, then we decide whether the ride needs to be interactive or whether it needs to be just an experience. The next things go into other selection of something like the head-mounted display. There are many displays available today in the market. What features do you want? Do you want it to be virtual reality, augmented reality, hologram based? We look at these three aspects. Then we look at the application of hardware required for this. What is the kind of graphics processing which is immensely high for these applications? On another note, we look at what is your requirement of motion cueing, so that when you move, there are certain degrees of freedoms. Today the maximum that we use is a 6 degree of freedom platform. So we need to make sure that the motion cueing is in sync with the gaming requirement. Then we look at the environment, which is stuff like wind blowing at you, heat transmission, the feeling of some snake going across your feet, the feeling of maybe getting an injection in your arm. So we look at indicating all these things back into the game so that you feel a real in-depth sense of being part of the game. You don't feel that it's an external environment. You actually feel that you're getting bitten by the animal.
So, for example, one of the rides at Smaaash that I have experienced is the ability to draw your own roller coaster ride and then sit in the chair and actually go through that.
True.
So, if we can probably take that or any other game or experience that you want as an example, how exactly is something like that developed, and if you can also touch a little bit upon the kind of hardware and software that you use to develop these experiences.
Okay, so the first game that you mentioned is called the Finger Coaster. It's one of our most popular games and one of the first 3 games that we introduced into India on a complete global footing, I would say, as the first virtual reality customized roller coaster ride. The beauty of this game is that you can actually draw your own roller coaster. So if you want 3 loops, you want to go multiple times round and round like a centrifuge, or you want to go linear as much as possible, you want to take a square round, you can do anything what your mind desires. Getting back to my point of how we conceptualize the game, we thought of many roller coaster rides first. So we thought of predetermining and making 10 rides. Then we always thought a person comes, he likes 2 rides, he'll probably never come and do it again. So we thought, let's make it that you can actually customize your own ride. The biggest challenge we faced in this ride is because you can draw it on your own, it becomes a dynamic, real-time motion rendered ride. For a dynamic real-time motion rendered ride, the amount of graphic processing that goes into each game is phenomenal. So we are using 6 computers to run this one game, and all of them run on the GTX 1080 cards, which are the cards released in the last few months, which are the world's best powered graphic cards today in any format.
So just to reiterate, there are 6 computers.
There are 6 computers
to make this one ride possible.
To make one ride possible.
And all of them are working simultaneously with GTX 1080s.
Yes, all of them are working simultaneously with GTX 1080s to provide you the graphic experience, along with 2 touchscreen monitors that again control the entire interfacing between the client and the operator.
Okay.
So, to then going to the part of motion cueing, when the person sits on the given chairs that we call it, these chairs move in the direction of the ride. So the person's going up the slope, there are certain motions that he gets that gives him the feeling of elevating. When he goes down the slope, he gets motions of going sideways, downwards, dropping in height. So to basically we take around 3G forces to actually render the imagery out here, so that you actually feel when you've reached the top of the roller coaster and you slide down, you actually feel that you've gone through an entire real ride. And we always have people and kids screaming, holding on to the seat belts and screaming for their life on that ride.
Okay, so again, you've already answered this question by saying that it's a customized experience, but other VR experiences which are slightly linear, after the first time effect of feeling vertigo or feeling scared of a horror experience, the second time the experience is considerably reduced. Right, if you experience the same VR for the second time.
Yeah.
So what do you do to ensure that a customer always comes back for an experience?
See, today most of the games that we have had till date in Smaaash have been experiences and rides. The new games that we are making are all focused on competitive, interactive sports. So you will have racing, which has the abilities to shoot your opponents. You can race on a given pod. So you're kind of flying, which is it's like flying a drone, but it's racing against 4 of your friends. Today, most sports that are active in Smaaash are games that you can ideally compete with each other, or you're competing against a computer. So people want these experiences. So our new level of games that we are launching globally and in India in the next couple of months will have interactive and competitive abilities, so that you have a real-time score that is linked directly to your social media profiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming back to the headsets that you guys use for VR and AR, can you tell us what brand they are, what company is making them, and any other hardware information that you can
The
share?
first commercial headset that pretty much came about 3 years ago was the Oculus Development Kit 1. We started off our venture with the DK1 as a prototype that we used. We commercially used the current device that we're using is the new HTC Vive. So HTC Vive has a partnership program with them where you can actually sign up and use their products commercially, which most other headsets do not allow you. They're all for residential and corporate use, but not on a chargeable basis. So we've tied up with HTC and we're working with them. This is the latest head-mounted display. It's the one that sits here. It comes with a native inbuilt camera and tracking systems for your hands and head. So we are stuck to HTC Vive as the new device for this year. Next year, again, this is a very dynamic market. So every 6 months, there's a new entry, a new upgrade of different cameras, products, tracking systems, head-mounted systems. So it's going to be a dynamic choice for us always. But our back-end system is configured in such a way that we literally have a slider that you can choose between different headsets, and you can integrate the game and output the entire exe file to work with any headset.
So essentially, if tomorrow another company enters the market, or we have the HTC Vive and Oculus Rift second generation products coming in, these experiences will be compatible with those?
Will be totally compatible with them.
And do you upgrade the headsets in all your experience zones?
So we started with the DK1, we moved to the DK2. Today we are using the Oculus CV1 as well as the HTC Vive in our commercial environment.
So any plans to let a consumer at home have any of these experiences that you currently have available?
So currently there are multiple experiences. Any consumer can buy an HTC Vive and Oculus or the Samsung Gear VR and try it out at home. For us, we are more focused on giving them an experience they can't get at home. It's like, for example, anyone can play FIFA on your PlayStation or Xbox back at home. But what we give them is a real life robo-keeper that will actually stop your physical ball. So that is Smaaash, and that is where we perceive our beliefs are from. That we are interested in giving you a complete wholesome experience which ideally doesn't work from home. But still we are looking at developing an app that has certain of our brand ambassadors and some of the world's favorite games which can work at their home.
Okay, so again, now VR is a very expensive technology to adopt, right? So can you elaborate a little bit, even not giving specific numbers, but the kind of costs that you've incurred when it comes to giving such an expensive experience to consumers? Because an HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and even the PlayStation VR are very expensive, and add to that the cost of a console or a high-end PC that you need to make it run. And the average consumer can't experience it, but the average consumer can experience it at an affordable cost at your centers.
Yes.
So how have you achieved something?
So coming to cost, we could charge a lot more for certain experiences, but we are not targeting the SEC AAA market. We're looking at any person who comes to Smaaash is always welcome, and we charge affordable rates for people to try world-class category games. That is our pricing strategy. It's not built, from a point of view of just ROI. It's built so that everyone can enjoy the experience of Smaaash. Regarding capex, see, there's always an entry barrier for the first mover. To gain the first mover advantage, you've got to spend money, and people normally benefit off your expenditure. So I wouldn't say that we've spent exorbitant amount of monies, but we've spent a lot of money, which obviously goes in multiple millions of dollars, to get this technology rated and working on a safety level so that most people can enjoy the ride and have a comfortable experience where they get wowed but do not feel nauseatic.
Okay. Any plans to have experiences that just go beyond entertainment and just the fun of it to something that's more experiential, like movies or education or learning?
So we are looking at creating a complete 3D horror movie and a movie based on a Animal Tales movie. Okay. So these are two movies that we are looking at, which would be a bit of virtual reality, but you will be seeing the outside world as well with it. So you would see a monkey come and jump in front of you. At the same time, you will be seeing your friend sitting to the side of you. Okay. So this is our plan that we plan to release. It will be a 60-seater theater, which will have a bunch of people sitting in the audience and watching a movie like it was a theater performance.
Okay. So since now you've probably gotten most of our viewers excited about having a VR experience, can you elaborate a little bit on the cities that you currently are active in India and any future expansion, and the average cost a consumer will have to pay to experience a few of these rides?
So currently we are in Bombay, Gurgaon, Noida, Hyderabad, Bangalore and Ludhiana within the Indian cities. These are our flagships at Smaaash centers that have all the VR games and sporting elements as well. We have a couple of go-karting tracks that are in Bombay and Gurgaon. Our next center launching is what we're most excited about is in the Mall of America in Minnesota in USA. This is a huge go-karting track along with all VR and sporting experiences and a state-of-the-art bar which has 50 different local liquors available. The next would be in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. This is our expansion plans for worldwide. Coming to costing, irrespective where you are in India or the world, our average game would be around 250 rupees or around maybe $3.5 to $4 per game. This is the average pricing that we have per person per ride. Again, if you buy a banquet system, and you have or a buffet system, you get a lot of benefits on that. Like we have a plan for around 1,000 rupees where you can try all the games.
Okay. Now coming to one thing which has recently started as a concern, but it hasn't had any adverse effects yet, which is health. Health, especially when it comes to children experiencing VR. Now when the eyes and the cognitive nature of kids is developing, VR essentially splits an image in two and it represents it to the eyes, right? Technically speaking. There has been nothing discovered yet, but people are still being a little cautious and wary about kids using VR.
In fact, when I said the first move advantage that when we started off developing, we developed a lot of games in VR for approximately 5 minutes to 6 minutes per ride. What we realized is more than 30% of the target audience that we had, that's between the age of 10 to around 60, felt comfortable using VR headsets for under 120 seconds. Irrespective of the motion platform, irrespective of the content, if it's at a high frame rate at around 75 frames per second per eye, people are fine with under 120 seconds. The minute we go over 120 and we start touching 180 seconds, we start seeing a lot of people getting nauseatic and having motion sickness.
Okay.
So to counter that, we as a policy in any center worldwide, any game, have never kept the motion and the VR on for more than 120 seconds.
Okay.
That is what we take care of the health aspect. There are a lot of people who have worldwide, they've made a movie with an Oculus, which is around 6 minutes. I know for sure that a bunch of people after wearing 6 minutes would probably throw up as well. So it's been our policy. A lot of consumers come and say that, oh, you've given us, it's not worth the money because it's only been for like 60 seconds or 90 seconds for the ride. And we educate them by explaining to them that you are never used to keeping, a couple of LED monitors so close to your eyes. The actual distance is less than 1 inch from your, from your retina. So to cover all of that, we as a policy have it under 120 seconds, and that has worked seamlessly for us throughout all the basically centers.
Okay, how VR games are made, maybe softwares that you use or...
So softwares, basically when you look at making a VR game, you're ideally looking at making it in an application called Unity, which is your basic programming.
Ubisoft engine.
Yeah, Unity, and there's Unreal Engine. So you can use either of them. If you're looking at putting more high quality animations, you would probably look at using Unreal. If you're looking at more integration of hardware and more forums to get data from, you would be looking at using the Unity engine. They both are state-of-the-art engines. They both released their latest versions around 3 to 4 months ago. They're fantastic gaming engines, very solid, robust built. The same Unity-based software can be made on a Windows PC like this, and exported from there to Mac OS, to iOS, to Samsung phone, and even a Linux or a Windows-based exe file. So it's a very standalone system of use of the software, where we've pretty much identified both of these as our gaming engine softwares. For hardware, we use different motors from German companies and Czech Republic companies that are built from the angle of working in industrial automation. So they don't have a 2-hour or 3-hour duty cycle. They can work 24 hours, 365 days a year, which is very important in entertainment industry because most of our revenue comes between Friday morning and Sunday night. So these 3 days we expect 12 hours of throughput non-stop, and these machines have to be overworked. But because of the engineering aspect that we guys have a background of, we normally tend to select the right kind of hardware, which most people fail in doing, which is what makes Smaaash basically to continue and grow on a, we launch pretty much every alternate month. We're launching a new center. So we have an entire team for 150 people taking care of an entire center. And the handoff and training process has now become very easy for us, like it's clockwork.
Okay.
We launch a center, we have the material fly in, we execute the work, and we have the maintenance team take care of it immediately from there.
Okay. So with VR experiences, first of all, like PlayStation VR and stuff, Shripal told me that you guys are waiting for the PlayStation VR to come so that you can create certain experiences for it.
True.
So with the history of game development in India, it hasn't been very great,
Yes.
With video games that are for consoles or PCs, we haven't really seen anything AAA or groundbreaking come out on the console platform. Mobile, yes, has started lately. So do you think VR is the game changer that's needed for...
See, Indian markets are ideally heavily utilized, in fact, in the video game industry, but they're all on the back-end graphics, procurement and developing part. They're not on the front end. Like the leaders in this is basically USA and European markets that pick up the entire gaming console, the big companies, EA, all of these guys, they make the big games that sell. Indians, for Formula 1 to Superbike to a bunch of horror games, all of this stuff is made by Indian designers sitting in cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore and Pune. However, that thing doesn't ever come to the foreground, but because of we being in the industry, we deal with these people, they are doing a hell lot of work on this. I think in 2 to 3 years, you will see a lot of Indians that actually come up as the top names in this. Like they've captured pretty much the entire app market is based out of India today. A lot of apps are being made out here. I feel the same thing will happen for VR and other gaming, where Indians would be there in this space.
So for experiential rides or for home entertainment and gaming, do you think VR is the next natural evolution? Because motion gaming, when it came with like the Nintendo Wii or the PlayStation Move and Kinect, was very lackluster because people picked it up, it was a family experience, and after a few weeks it was forgotten.
It was forgotten.
So can VR change this? Or
see, evolution has started from, earlier back in the day we had arcade games that used to work with coins. Then from that they moved to these video games where you can have consoles. Today they are moving to games which have motion and haptics along with VR on this. I think this is the natural evolution that will take its toll, and you'll start seeing more and more VR-based theme parks open worldwide for many reasons. You know, the overall cost of ownership compared to a roller coaster itself would be much less, and the number of customers that come in, your throughput, your revenue, your maintenance, your let's say chance of failures would reduce being in this industry. So I definitely think this is the next step for gamers and people who want to come out, enjoy an experience. A family entertainment center essentially would move to a model based out of Smaaash.
How easy or difficult it is to use Unity or Unreal as engines to develop? What's the learning curve? What's the educational background that's required? So if someone wants to do this as a career in the future, what can they look out for?
So Unity is a little more complex than Unreal. Unreal is very simple. If a person knows how to use basic GUI applications, maybe it takes a week's tutorial online and he could manage to learn Unreal within maybe a couple of weeks at most. He could start making basic apps. The same app could be used on a Google smartphone, and it can be used on a Windows PC as well. So making apps has become very easy today. Apple is even launching a program for people to help develop making apps.
And this is available in India?
Yeah, you can buy Unity license for free only if you want to sell your products online, and I think if it's more than $100,000 of business, that's when you need to buy the legal license for it. Otherwise, Unity you can download for free if you buy an HTC or an Oculus. You can get the download, you can start making games on your own. So once you start going commercially, that's when you actually pay for it.
So essentially, it's very easy for someone who's an enthusiast sitting at home to just log on the internet, learn, and actually start making VR experiences.
It's very easy.
Okay.
You need to understand the kind of, like they come with a built-in development kit. So as long as you have everything associated, it's pretty easy for you to actually roll out an app for something like this. The more difficult parts comes into, doing the physics, the mechanical motion integration. That is where we require a lot of expertise into doing that. But to make a basic app where you can have something on your mobile phone and probably put it into a Google Glass and see it would be very, very inexpensive for you.
Okay. Can you also talk about the time it takes to develop one experience and the manpower that you use for something like this?
So we have a team of civil engineers, structural engineers, mechanical, electronics, and finally, after all of them have given their input, we have one mechatronics engineer who takes the VR code, who takes our entire graphics, who takes the mechanical output of all the machinery, and it makes one complete exe file out of that, which is the end game that is played at Smaaash. So it's a team of around 36 people that run the entire show from the software and hardware engineering side, and there's a team of around 30 fabricators that work in 3 shifts a day to help us create and construct all the safety elements and the physical modules for the game.
Okay, so it's
around 55 or 60 people in the entire team.
And the time duration for one experience?
So once the game is, like I mentioned, the entire part where we debate on how the game should be, what are the kind of emotions and stuff for that, that would be nearly say a month of debate, because it's very important that we get all the facts right, because changing something at a later date might be catastrophic compared to doing it immediately before planned. So once we finalized everything, I think it takes us around 2 months to roll out an entire game. And to give you an example, one game that we've come out with for our American markets, we are going to Minnesota, which is a huge ice hockey playing state. So we've made a robotic ice hockey goalkeeper, where you take an actual ice hockey bat and you smack it. The puck usually flies over 120 kilometers an hour with an amateur playing on it because of the leverage of the stick. It's around a 6 feet long stick. And we have made the goalkeeper so fast that in 0.1 seconds it actually goes and does the stop, irrespective of the speed of the shot.
Wow.
Yeah. So that entire, once we've identified the kind of motion that we require, the kind of motors, power, camera tracking systems are done, we got the entire game, once all the materials was there, in maybe 45 days the entire game was running.
So if we can start by talking a little bit about VR is a very new technology, and you are one of the first companies to have a first mover's advantage, especially when it comes to an experiential center with VR. So can you elaborate on VR as a technology and what's your opinion on it?
Sure. I think when we first explored VR, we realized that we can remove all boundaries or constraints of imagination that come in the real world while designing a game. Many of us are confined not to try extreme games or extreme sports. So basically we thought this would be a good strategy on our part to create such extreme games using the virtual reality platform. So this is what we have implemented in phase 1, and we are continuously improving these games and introducing newer experiences in extreme sports.
Okay. So before we started this conversation, you spoke about a VR experience where when you started just to simulate it, you had GoPros in
Yes.
Foot 360. So can you reiterate that for us?
So every experience we have created in Smaaash has started as a comedy of errors. So when we started virtual reality experience, both I and my head of research, we went somewhere in United States of America, upstate New York basically, and we actually put 7 GoPro cameras on a rig on our head, and we dived from a plane which was 500 meters high, and everything was recorded. And then when we tried to sync all the products of the camera, we realized that in absence of any reference, we could not get the desired effects. And that's where we realized that VR is best done basically using existing platforms such as Unreal, etc., as opposed to really shooting. It doesn't mean we have given up on that, but we are still trying with that, but we haven't succeeded too much on that.
Okay. So going a little bit beyond video games and experiences, do you think there are any other industries that can benefit from virtual reality, and if you have any examples?
I think I am very excited about using virtual reality in the field of education. And we will have subjects like history, geography, maths and science being absolutely easy for a child to be understood. Not only easy, it becomes an enjoyable experience for the child to learn these things. And the learning can be in such a manner that he does not forget it for the lifetime. For example, I saw Sholay some 20 or 30 years ago, but I still remember the key points of the storyline of Sholay. This is exactly what happens when learning is introduced through virtual reality. A child will never ever forget, because it's an experience he is imbibing in him. And that experience will remain as knowledge with him throughout. Knowledge of mugging that is there today, it appears and it disappears. It is not there permanently. But this knowledge as an experience will stay with him throughout.
So how do you see the cost of something like this progressing, since VR is expensive and it needs to go mass market?
As I said, this era has seen a lot of changes, and a lot of changes, disruptive changes have happened because someone has put dedicated amount of money on it. I think there are enough people with ideas, and everyone knows this can disrupt it. But we need one person who believes in this and can put that $50 million coppers to develop this, and it can change everything. So it doesn't require too much of money. The disruption can be bought around max at $50 million.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about VR as a home solution? Right now, of course, it's not a part of every household, and they need to come to a place like Smaaash to experience
Absolutely.
it. Is there
Yes.
a cost-effective future there?
Yes, absolutely. There is tremendous amount of cost-effective future, especially if you take movies. That is something which is not interactive. Today everyone has a Samsung phone, etc., at their home, and you could actually teach the children, their entire story timing, etc., using the virtual reality technology. So I see tremendous amount of usage in home also, again to begin the learning process. The whole idea is, what we like about VR is it breaks the shackles of imagination. Nothing is impossible is what it teaches us. And I think right from being a mother's unpaid babysitter, the mother can program all these things on a virtual reality, and they can just go through all these softwares in a manner that they are a part of it. See, when they see it on a television, they know there are two instruments. There is one themselves, and there is one which is the computer in front of them. Here they are a part of it. They are following the character. So from that perspective, one of our first things that will come out hopefully next June, once our international expansion is over, or the first phase of international expansion is completed, is basically taking children's or toddlers' learning to a new level using virtual reality.
You also spoke earlier about PlayStation VR experiences. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on what Smaaash
See,
is working on with that?
according to me, VR is not great for games, and I may be completely wrong, but it will not be great for games. So we are just waiting for this Sony PlayStation VR to come about and see how they have integrated their existing games on the PlayStation platform with virtual reality, and whether they can sustain a consumer on there for 1 or 2 hours. I think that is clearly the thing that we have to see. For me, virtual reality is a great thing to have experiences which otherwise you cannot have, to put you in the spot which you would never have been before. So from that perspective, I do not know how gaming will behave. So we want to stick to experiences, whether it is in the field of education or gaming. We just want to stick to experiences.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers about VR experiences?
No, I think we are very, very buoyed by the reception we have got. We were in Ayappa last year and they were completely, the consumers were completely delighted by the experience they have had. And because of this, we are now expanding globally. We are opening in United States of America in the largest mall out there on 14th of December. Then the journey takes us to Saudi Arabia and then Dubai. So I think the early movers advantage in technology is taking us places, and we are also very excited now about the Microsoft HoloLens technology coming out shortly, and we also intend to embrace that also.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine.